On a quiet Sunday morning in 1982, in the town of West Des Moines, Iowa, a 12-year-old boy stepped out of his house to begin his usual paper route. His name was Johnny Gosch. He followed the same path he took every morning, carrying the same newspaper bag, walking the same familiar neighborhood streets. Everything about that morning should have been ordinary, but it wasn't, because Johnny never came home. Johnny normally delivered newspapers with his father, but on this particular morning, he went alone. Neighbors saw him doing his route, just like always. One person remembered him smiling and waving. Another said he looked focused, just doing his job. But then someone noticed something that felt wrong. A blue two-tone sedan slowly circling the block, trailing behind Johnny, moving just a little too deliberately. A short time later, the first sign of trouble appeared. By 7 a.m., people in the neighborhood called the Gosch home asking why their newspapers hadn't arrived. Johnny's father went searching and found his son's red wagon sitting alone on the sidewalk. Newspapers were still neatly stacked inside. There was no sign of Johnny anywhere. No scuffle, no torn clothing, no footprints. It looked as though he had simply vanished into thin air. Despite multiple witnesses reporting a suspicious man approaching Johnny, and despite the strange car circling the area, police initially treated the situation as a runaway case. That early hesitation would become one of the most painful parts of the story for Johnny's family. But witnesses continued coming forward. One boy said he saw a man walk up to Johnny asking for directions. Another said the blue car sped away right after Johnny was last seen. Every detail suggested an abduction, one that appeared coordinated, fast, and planned. But authorities dismissed much of the information, calling it unreliable. Johnny's mother, Johnny Gosch, refused to accept that. She began her own investigation, gathering witness statements and chasing leads that police failed to pursue. Then, decades later, something disturbing resurfaced. In 2006, an anonymous envelope appeared on Noreen's doorstep. Inside was a photograph, a grainy, unsettling image of a boy tied up on a bed, terrified. Some investigators believed it could be Johnny. Others labeled it a cruel hoax. But no one could explain where the picture came from or why it appeared so many years after Johnny disappeared. Not long after, the case turned even stranger. Noreen claimed that one night, as an adult, Johnny came to her home accompanied by another man. She said her son told her he had been abducted by a trafficking ring, had eventually escaped, and was living under a different identity to stay alive. According to Noreen, Johnny said one last thing before he left: "Don't tell anyone I was here." Police rejected the story, but Noreen never changed her account, and no one has ever proven her wrong. Johnny Gosch became the first missing child to appear on a milk carton in the United States. His disappearance helped change national child protection laws and led to the creation of major missing children organizations. But what actually happened to him remains unknown. No body has ever been found, no suspect has ever been charged, and no final piece of evidence has ever emerged. More than 40 years later, the disappearance of Johnny Gosch is still one of America's most haunting mysteries. A child gone in seconds, a trail of clues that lead nowhere, and a case full of questions that may never be answered. This is the story of Johnny Gosch. And somewhere, perhaps, the truth is still out there.